in a small, quiet town, there lived a boy. He wasn't mute, he could speak, but it felt like no one ever listened. It wasn't because he was weak or shy, but because he was, for all intents and purposes, invisible. In every class at school, he found his seat on the last bench, a silent observer in a world that moved on without him. Teachers would call his name for attendance, a robotic checkmark on a list, but no one ever looked him in the eye and asked the simple question, "What do you want to become?" His dreams, his thoughts, his very existence seemed to be a secret he kept to himself. One afternoon, the air in the classroom was thick with tension. It was the day exam papers were being returned. As the teacher walked down the aisles, the room filled with a mix of emotions. Some students broke into wide smiles, proud of their achievements. Others couldn't hold back tears of disappointment. When the boy's paper landed on his desk, he didn't look at the score on the front. Instead, he flipped to the very last page. There, scrawled in bold red ink, were two words that would change everything. Potential wasted. That single sentence hit him harder than any failing grade could. It became the loudest, most deafening sound he had ever heard, echoing in the silence of his life. But he didn't cry that day. There were no tears, no dramatic outburst. He simply packed his bag, walked home, and stood in front of the mirror in his room. He looked at his own reflection, at the boy everyone overlooked, and said just one word, a quiet promise to himself, "Okay." From that moment on, a silent transformation began. It wasn't loud or flashy. No one really noticed at first. He started sleeping a little less each night, using those quiet, early morning hours to learn. He spoke even less than before, conserving his energy for what truly mattered. But he worked more. He worked with a fierce, quiet determination that burned within him, while his classmates were out at parties. Celebrating their youth, he was hunched over a computer, learning how to edit videos, how to tell a story through a lens, while others were laughing and joking around in the schoolyard. He was meticulously writing down his failures in a small notebook, studying them, learning from every single mistake. He didn't see them as setbacks, but as steps. 3 years went by in a blur of silent effort. The world around him continued on, largely unaware of the storm brewing within the quiet boy from the back of the class. Then, one day, his old school decided to organize a special seminar for its current students. The topic, ironically, was believing in yourself. They had invited a guest speaker, a young entrepreneur who had made a name for himself in the world of digital media. As the event began, a young man walked confidently onto the stage. He was dressed simply, but carried an air of quiet authority. The students and teachers in the audience looked at him, trying to place his face, but no one recognized him. He wasn't a local celebrity or a famous alumnus. He was a stranger. He walked to the microphone and the hall fell silent, waiting for his grand opening speech. But he didn't launch into a long motivational talk. He looked out at the crowd, his eyes scanning the faces, perhaps searching for the ones who had never seen him before. After a long pause, he said just one thing, his voice clear and steady, filling every corner of the auditorium. "I am the boy you never paid attention to." A ripple of confusion went through the crowd. He continued, "I was the one on the last bench. Today, I'm here to prove a single, simple point. When you choose to ignore the silent people, you better be prepared. Because one day you will be forced to hear their story." The hall went completely, utterly quiet. You could have heard a pin drop. In the front row, a teacher, now with a few more grey hairs, looked down at her hands, a flush of recognition and regret on her face. It was the same teacher who, years ago, had written those two fateful words in red ink. Potential wasted. The young man didn't linger on stage. His message was delivered. He stepped off, and a strange thing happened. Some people in the audience started to clap, a slow, hesitant applause that gradually grew stronger. Others just sat there, stunned into silence, processing what they had just witnessed. But the boy, now a man, didn't care about the applause or the silence. As he walked away, he knew one thing with absolute certainty. He was no longer silent. He had become the story. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it.